In today's video, I'm sharing everything you need to know to paint simple and beautiful watercolor trees. Hi gang, welcome back. My name is Shayda and today we are going to paint some watercolor trees together. I'm going to give you a quick supply rundown. I'll be painting on 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper. For paints, I have my Muño 48-pan set. This is a great set of paints. I will link it in the description. And then I also have 2 glasses of clean water, towel for blotting. And for brushes, let's take a look here. I have a whole bunch of different round and pointed round brushes, different sizes. Some are animal hair, some are synthetic. The one I'm going to use today is a number 4 sable hair round brush, pointed round brush. And that's it there. Now, if I get it wet, you can see if I'll just blot it a little, but when it's wet, it comes to a really nice fine point, but it still has that big belly that holds lots of paint. So that's what we want. And I'm going to start by mixing up some greens. Since we're painting trees, we'll start by mixing our greens. And what I do is I scrub those pans with the wet brush, and you want to pick up that paint and bring it over to your palette and mix in lots of water. Now, if you feel like you need a little more assistance with the color mixing, all the supplies, I do have a watercolor e-course. You'll find it on my website, shaydacampbell.com, and it covers all the basics. We put it on sale over the last few months while everyone's been staying home, but June is the last month that it will be on sale, so check it out. So there we go, we've got some nice watery paint mixed up on the palette. And the first thing we're going to do is a bit of practice. So before we can start painting trees, we need to understand how watercolor paint performs when it's wet and when it's dry. So here I have wet paint, and you can see I can actually move the border of this paint. I can release color into that wet area and it kind of moves beautifully. And you can see I'm pushing the perimeter of this color area out, and there's no harsh lines. So when the paint is wet, I can still move it around. I can change the border or the perimeter. I can change the entire shape without getting any harsh lines. And then I can also release color into that wet area, and it also bleeds out really beautifully, and we get these nice smooth gradients of color. Now that you have an example of how the wet paint performs, we're going to do a little wet on dry, or we're going to allow the paint to dry so you can kind of see the difference. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with the same sort of color area, and I'm just going to put down this big splotchy green area. You can see I'm kind of hinting at leaves. And what we'll do now is we'll let that dry completely. Okay, and now it is dry. So that took about 10 minutes. And now if I try to change that border, that perimeter, I can't. So with wet paint on dry paint, I'm not able to change those edges at all. Even with a clean, damp brush, really scrubbing at it, I'm not changing it up right now. But what wet on dry is good for is getting lots of precision. So this is the technique you're going to use for layering, for getting more detail, and for working out a part of the painting that needs to be really precise. Understanding how the paint performs when it's wet versus when it's dry, and what the limitations and the advantages of that are, is really key when we start painting these trees. And now that you understand that, I think this is going to be really simple. I want to take just a second to mention that on the first weekend of every month, I release a bonus tutorial on Patreon. This month, we're talking about common watercolor mistakes and how to fix them. If you're interested in supporting the channel and getting tons of bonus content, head to patreon.com/ShaydaCampbell. So let's get started. I'm going to pick up some green on my brush, and then we're going to bring it over here to the page, and I am going to start by painting this kind of messy, very messy area. As you paint, think about everything we've just talked about. You're using a pointed round brush. Having that fine tip means that you can do some of these smaller, more delicate little splotches of color, and then having the belly means you can do larger, wider areas of color. and you've got lots and lots of paint in your brush at all times. And that's also good because you don't want the paint to dry. You want to keep moving the border of this tree area, this leafy shape, out until you get it looking the way you want. So you don't want really any edges to form. So you're moving quickly while the paint is wet. You might release a little more color into the wet area so that some areas are darker and some are lighter. And you can see I've also left some negative space in there so that you can kind of peek through the tree and it looks very organic. And remember, this is just a simple way to paint a tree. Let's try this again because there's something else I'd like to talk about, and that is the shape of the leaves. So obviously right now we're painting the leaves of the tree, and considering the shape of the leaves is really how you're going to paint or differentiate one tree from the next. So the first one I did was this big, almost oval shape, a little bit larger at the top than at the bottom. And this shape is going to be a little more circular. So the first tree I painted, I would say is like a young maple, but this is going to be like a grand old oak tree, like something from the 100-acre wood. This is a giant old tree. And you'll also see how the shape of the trunk adds to that effect as well. But for this one, I've laid down again this splotch of color, trying not to let too many edges form. I've left a bit of negative space. I've moved quickly. Now let's put in the tree trunk, and you'll see how the shape also helps us to achieve the effect of a different type of tree. So right now I'm adding a very thin, long trunk, but then on this one, at the top, I'm starting with some tiny little branches, just using the very tip of that pointed round brush. But then as I move towards the trunk, I'm going to use a bit more of the belly of the brush to get a larger area of color. And this tree has a much shorter, wider trunk. So by thinking first of all about the shape of the leaves, like the whole formation of those leaves, and then thinking about the trunk, we're able to paint different trees, but with the same formula. You saw how easily and quickly that comes together. Okay, let's grab some more green, and we're going to do one more together just so you've really got this. So think about getting lots of paint in that brush. Now I'm going to start quickly moving the brush around the page. I'm leaving a little bit of negative space, and I'm moving that perimeter out to get the shape of the leaves that I want. And I'm going to do kind of another big oak tree. So I want a big sort of circular shape, like a leaf formation that is wider than it is tall. I also don't want the leaves to be too symmetrical. Like, we don't just want this big green circle, right? Because a tree would never be that symmetrical. So it should be a little unbalanced. Using the tip of your brush, keep laying down small splotches of color mixed with larger ones. Keep moving the perimeter of the leafy area. Keep leaving little bits of negative space so that we can see a little bit of page through there. Let some areas of the leaves be a little lighter, so you might add more water to the paint, and some a little darker, so you might add a bit of a darker green into some areas. Just mess around and try to do it a little bit quickly. Like, you don't want to feel rushed, but you don't want to take forever at it either. I think this is one where you definitely don't want to overwork the paint. And now I'm going to take a little bit of this brown. I'm just using a brown right out of the palette, and I am kind of painting the trunk. And I have some very delicate little branches up at the top. And then the trunk gives way to some very delicate roots at the bottom here. So you're using that delicate point of the pointed round brush to do that, as well as the belly for the larger area of the trunk. And then once you've painted those branches and the trunk, you may decide you need a few more leaves. And I decided I wanted to get a bit darker here towards the bottom. But remember, just keep it unbalanced. You don't want it to be too symmetrical. And then finally, you can use your wet on dry watercolor skills to add a little bit more detail to that trunk if you like. So I'm just coming in with a bit of dark brown on the tip of my brush. And that's it. That is my simple formula for painting watercolor trees. These are great to have in your back pocket if you're painting houses or if you're doing a nature or landscape painting. And by simply switching up the formation of the leaves and the shape of the trunk, you can paint any tree that you like. Remember to think about the way the paint performs when it's wet versus when it's dry, and that's all you need to know to start painting beautiful watercolor trees. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you soon with a new tutorial.